Isn't it adorable? My sister Vanessa's voice dripped with condescension as she gestured at my boutique's storefront, like a quaint little dollhouse next to what we're building. She turned to admire the massive construction site next door, where cranes towered against the sky. Now this is what real success looks like. My name is Olivia Chin, and at 32, I'd spent the last 5 years building Olive and Twine from a tiny consignment shop into a beloved local boutique. While my family chased bigger dreams, I focused on curating unique pieces, building relationships with artisan vendors, and creating a warm, welcoming space where customers felt like friends. You know it's not too late to join us, Vanessa continued, brushing imaginary dust from her designer blazer. Dad could use someone to manage the mall's smaller retailers. You already have experience with that sort of thing. She waved vaguely at my shop window, where I just finished arranging a display of handcrafted jewelry. I kept my voice steady, though my hands clenched behind the counter. I'm doing fine on my own, thanks. Fine, she laughed. Olive, you're barely surviving. Our luxury mall will have everything: high-end boutiques, exclusive restaurants, a VIP shopping concierge. People won't want to shop at little stores like yours anymore. The little store, she dismissed, had just had its best quarter yet. But trying to explain that to Vanessa would be like trying to convince a peacock that less is more. She'd always been the golden child, the one who followed our father into his real estate empire while I chose my own path. Thanks for stopping by, I said, turning back to my inventory sheets. I'm sure you have important meetings to attend. Actually, I came to give you this. She placed a glossy envelope on the counter. The groundbreaking ceremony is next week. The whole family will be there, plus all the major investors and press. Try to wear something appropriate. After she left, I opened the envelope. Inside was an invitation printed on thick cardstock. Join us in celebrating the future of luxury shopping. The Grand Plaza at Riverside. Below that was a note in my father's handwriting. Time to see what real success looks like. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I pinned it to my office bulletin board, right next to the newspaper clipping from when I first opened Olive and Twine. The contrast was almost poetic, their massive development versus my small, sustainable dream. That evening, as I was closing up, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Please come to the ceremony. Your father means well. He just wants what's best for you. What's best for me? That had always been their excuse for undermining my choices. When I turned down a position at my father's company to open my shop, they called it a phase. When I used my savings instead of accepting their investment, they called it foolish pride. Now they were building a monument to everything I'd rejected, right next door to my carefully built dream. The next morning, I arrived early to find a cluster of construction workers peering at my building's wall. There might be a problem, one of them said when he saw me. The vibrations from our equipment. Your wall shares the foundation with the construction site. It could be unstable. My heart sank. What does that mean? It means, a familiar voice cut in, that you might need to temporarily close for safety reasons. My father strode over, plans tucked under his arm. But don't worry, princess. I'm sure we can find you a nice space in the new mall once it's ready. I stared at him, realization dawning. You knew about this when you bought the development site. He had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. I knew there might be some structural concerns. But this is progress, Olive. You can't stand in the way of progress. No, I agreed quietly. But I can adapt to it. I turned and walked into my shop, my mind already racing with possibilities. They thought they could pressure me into giving up, but they'd forgotten who taught me about determination in the first place. I spent that evening reviewing my finances. 5 years of careful management and steady growth had left me with a healthy emergency fund and solid vendor relationships. More importantly, I had something my family had never understood: a loyal customer base who valued authenticity over luxury. The groundbreaking ceremony arrived on a crisp autumn morning. I wore my favorite vintage dress, not the sleek designer outfit Vanessa had helpfully sent over, and took my place among the crowd. My father stood at the podium, radiating confidence as he described his vision of the future. The Grand Plaza will redefine luxury shopping, he declared. No more scattered boutiques or small-time operators. This will be a one-stop destination for the discerning customer who demands excellence. In the front row, Vanessa beamed, already dressed like the mall executive she expected to become. Our mother dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, proud of her husband's latest triumph. None of them noticed me slipping away before the photo op. Back in my shop, I opened my laptop and logged into my sales database. While my family had been planning their luxury mall, I'd been building something they couldn't see, a detailed understanding of what local shoppers actually wanted. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my mother. You missed the photos. Your father wanted the whole family there. I started typing a response, then stopped. Let them have their moment. I had work to do. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Each morning, I opened my shop to the sound of construction next door. The walls sometimes shook, sending tremors through the carefully arranged displays. But instead of fighting it, I adapted. I moved my most delicate items to new, reinforced shelving. I added construction culture signs to displays, turning the disruption into a marketing theme. When dust from the site started coating my windows, I hired local artists to draw elaborate designs in it, turning them into ever-changing art installations that drew crowds with their cameras. My regulars didn't just keep shopping, they brought friends. Social media buzzed with photos of my creative solutions. Shop small, dream big became our unofficial slogan, with customers proudly carrying our distinctive recycled paper bags past the construction barriers. One afternoon, about a month after the groundbreaking, a sleek town car pulled up outside. Through my window, I watched as a woman in an impeccable suit stepped out, followed by two assistants carrying tablets. They stood for a moment, studying my storefront, then entered. Ms. Chen, the woman asked, extending her hand. I'm Margaret Wu from Asian Luxury Ventures. Do you have a moment to talk? I gestured to the vintage armchairs in the corner, where I often sat with customers. Of course. Can I offer you some tea? She smiled, but her eyes were shrewd as they swept the space. Thank you. I've been hearing interesting things about your boutique. Very interesting things. As I prepared the tea, a special blend from a local supplier, I noticed her assistants quietly photographing the shop, paying particular attention to my innovative display solutions and the steady stream of customers despite the construction chaos. I'll be direct, Margaret said as I poured the tea. We're one of the major investors in your father's mall project. But we're concerned about some recent market research. I kept my expression neutral, though my heart had started racing. Oh, it seems the local market isn't quite what we were led to believe. Customers here are more interested in authenticity and community than traditional luxury experiences. Shops like yours, she gestured around the space, are exactly what they want. Small, sustainable, personal. She set down her cup and leaned forward. Ms. Chen, would you be interested in discussing a different kind of partnership? Before I could respond, the door chimed. Vanessa strode in, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She stopped short when she saw Margaret. Ms. Wu, I didn't expect. What are you doing here? Margaret's smile remained pleasant, but her tone cooled slightly. Ah, Ms. Chen. What a coincidence. I was just having a fascinating discussion with your sister about the future of retail in this area. Vanessa's face flickered between confusion and alarm. But we already have a meeting scheduled tomorrow at the mall's luxury strategy. Yes, Margaret said, standing. I believe we'll need to seriously revise those strategies. She turned back to me. Think about what we discussed, Ms. Chen. I'll have my office send over some preliminary numbers. After she left, Vanessa rounded on me. What did you do? I started straightening the teacups. I ran my business. That's all I've ever done. This isn't over, she snapped, but her voice shook slightly. Dad won't let some little boutique to derail everything we've built. As she stormed out, I looked around my shop, at the carefully curated displays, the comfortable seating areas, the wall where I hung photos of customers wearing their finds. My family had always seen it as small, insignificant. They never understood that sometimes the biggest dreams come in the smallest packages. That evening, as I was updating my vendor orders, my father called. I let it go to voicemail. Whatever was coming, I was ready. They'd taught me well, after all, just not the lessons they'd intended. 2 days after Margaret Wu's visit, the construction noise next door suddenly stopped. Through my shop window, I watched workers gathering in small clusters, their expressions concerned as they checked their phones. By afternoon, equipment was being hauled away. My father's sleek Mercedes pulled up around 3. He barely glanced at my boutique as he strode into the construction site, but I noticed how his shoulders tensed. Something was wrong. Later that evening, as I was organizing new inventory, my mother appeared. She looked tired, her usual perfect composure slightly frayed. Olive, sweetie, she began, fidgeting with her wedding ring, never a good sign. Have you spoken with Margaret Wu recently? I continued folding a stack of hand-knitted sweaters. Not since she visited the shop. Why? It's just, there are some complications with the mall project. Your father thought perhaps, given your relationship with Ms. Wu. You mean the relationship you all mocked until you needed it? I kept my voice level, but my hands stilled on the soft wool. What kind of complications? She sank into one of my vintage armchairs, looking suddenly older. The Asian Luxury Ventures Group is reconsidering their investment. Without their backing, the other investors are getting nervous. Your father is trying to handle it. But now you want my help. I finished, after months of treating my business like an embarrassment. That's not fair, Olive. We've always supported you. No, I cut in, finally turning to face her. You've always tolerated me, waiting for me to fail or give up. There's a difference. The shop bell chimed as a customer entered, Sarah, one of my regulars. She beamed at me, then paused when she saw my mother. Oh, Mrs. Chen. I didn't expect. Are you finally shopping at Olive's? Her new autumn collection is amazing. I got so many compliments on that cardigan I bought last week. My mother forced a smile. Just having a family chat. Sarah's eyes lit up. You must be so proud. Everyone's talking about how Olive's handling the construction disruption. My friends from the city keep asking me to shop for them here. The personal touch, you know. You can't get that at big malls. I watched my mother's smile tighten. This was exactly what Margaret Wu had talked about, the changing market, the desire for authenticity over luxury, everything my family had dismissed. After Sarah left, clutching a bag with her latest finds, my mother stood. Just think about helping, please. For the family. I thought about all the family dinners where they belittled my choices, the constant comparisons to Vanessa's real career, the deliberate placement of their mall next door. I'll think about it, I said finally, but not for the family, for myself. The next morning, Vanessa stormed in before I even finished my coffee. What did you say to Margaret Wu? Good morning to you too. This isn't a joke, Olive. Asian Luxury Ventures is pulling out. Dad's trying to find new investors, but everyone's hesitating. They keep talking about market trends and changing consumer preferences. This has your fingerprints all over it. I met her glare steadily. I didn't say anything to Ms. Wu that she hadn't already figured out herself. The market is changing. People want something different than what you're offering. Something different? She gestured around my shop disdainfully. Like overpriced vintage clothes and local crafts. This isn't a real business model, Olive. It's a hobby that got lucky. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a notification. Another positive review on social media. This one from a fashion influencer praising our authentic shopping experience and community-focused approach. Vanessa's face darkened as she read it over my shoulder. You're really enjoying this, aren't you? She spat. Watching Dad's project fall apart while your little shop gets all the attention. No, I said quietly. I'm enjoying being right about what I've believed in all along. There's a difference. After she left, I opened my laptop and pulled up the email Margaret Wu had sent the day after her visit. The preliminary numbers she'd mentioned weren't just good, they were transformative. Asian Luxury Ventures wasn't just interested in my boutique. They saw it as a model for a new kind of retail experience. My phone buzzed again, a text from my father, my office. Tonight, 7 p.m. We need to discuss the future. I'd been in my father's office countless times growing up, watching him broker deals and build his empire. The massive desk, the wall of awards, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, it had all been designed to intimidate. But as I sat across from him now, I noticed something different. He looked tired. The mall project is in trouble, he said without preamble. But you already knew that. I had a feeling. He leaned back, studying me like he was seeing me for the first time. Margaret Wu seems quite impressed with your operation. Says you understand the modern consumer better than her entire market research team. I just listened to my customers. She's offering to back you, to expand your concept to other locations. It wasn't a question. That was our investment she pulled out of the mall. I met his gaze. Her company makes its own decisions. I didn't ask them to pull out. No, he admitted. But you showed them a better opportunity. He stood walking to the window. The other investors are following. The project, It's not just paused. It's dead. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of misunderstanding. Finally, he turned back to me. I always thought I was teaching you and Vanessa about business, about thinking big. But you, he gestured vaguely in the direction of my shop, you saw something we missed. I saw what people actually wanted, I said softly, not what we thought they should want. He nodded slowly. The market research team said the same thing. Called it authentic luxury, the personal touch, the community connection, everything we were planning to eliminate. It's not too late to adapt, I suggested. The development site, it could be something different, something that works with the neighborhood instead of against it. He looked at me sharply. You have an idea. I might, but we'd have to work together, really work together, not just you telling me what to do. For a moment, I saw a flash of the old authority in his eyes, the instinct to take control. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. All right then, princess, show me what you've got. As I left his office that night, my phone lit up with messages. Vanessa had been posting on social media, blaming local interference for the project's troubles. My mother was trying to organize a family dinner to sort things out. But there was also an email from Margaret Wu confirming our meeting about expansion plans. Standing in the elevator, watching the floor numbers descend, I thought about my little boutique. My family had called it small, insignificant, a stepping stone to real success. They never understood that sometimes the biggest impact comes from staying true to your vision, no matter how many cranes and concrete trucks try to overshadow it. The construction site fell silent over the next few days. The grand billboards advertising the future of luxury shopping were quietly removed. And through it all, my shop stayed open, welcoming customers with the same personal touch that had made it successful in the first place. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning. It's about being right, for the right reasons. The local paper ran the story on a Tuesday. Luxury mall project halted. Developer announces new direction. Below the headline was a photo of my father looking uncharacteristically humble, with a quote about reassessing market needs and embracing community-focused development. What the article didn't mention was the 3-hour meeting we'd had the night before, where I'd laid out my vision for the space. Not a luxury mall, but a marketplace that would blend high-end retail with local artisans and boutiques. A place that would enhance the neighborhood instead of overshadowing it. It's risky, my father had said, studying the plans spread across his desk. Mixing luxury brands with local vendors. It's never been done here before. That's exactly why it'll work, I'd replied. People don't want another soulless mall. They want an experience. Now, a week later, I stood with him at the edge of the construction site, watching workers remove the last of the original project's signage. Vanessa hadn't spoken to either of us since the announcement, and my mother was still trying to smooth things over, with increasingly desperate family dinner invitations. Ms. Wu's team sent over the final agreement this morning, my father said, breaking the silence. They're impressed with the new concept. Want to fast-track the development. I nodded, thinking of my meeting with Margaret the day before. She'd been enthusiastic about the revised plans, especially the incubator space for local designers I'd suggested. And Vanessa. He sighed, suddenly looking older. She's adjusting. It's not easy for her to accept that her little sister might understand the market better than she does. I'm not trying to prove I'm better, I said quietly. I just want to build something that matters. Before he could respond, a sleek black car pulled up. Margaret Wu stepped out, followed by her ever-present assistants. Perfect timing, she called out. The design team just sent over the new renderings. Shall we take a look? The temporary office we'd set up in a nearby building was a far cry from my father's imposing corporate suite. Mismatched furniture, walls covered in sketches and mood boards, and in the corner, a rack of clothes from my boutique that the designers use for inspiration. Margaret's team pulled up the renderings on a large screen. The transformation was stunning. Where the luxury mall would have been a monolithic glass and steel structure, the new design was open and inviting. Multiple buildings connected by landscaped walkways, rooftop gardens, and public spaces. My boutique wasn't just preserved, it was integrated into the design, becoming part of the development story. We're calling it the Commons at Riverside, Margaret explained. A blend of luxury retail, local businesses, and community space. The market research is extremely positive. My father studied the images intently. I could almost see him calculating risks and returns in his head, the way he taught me to do since I was old enough to count. But there was something else in his expression too, something that looked almost like pride. The local business association has already expressed interest in the incubator spaces, I added, and 3 of the luxury brands from the original plan want to stay, but with modified concepts that fit the new direction. Speaking of modified concepts, Margaret interjected, we'd like to discuss expanding Olive and Twine's presence in the development. Perhaps a larger space with room for your vendor workshops and community events. Before I could answer, the door burst open. Vanessa stood there, designer handbag clutched like a shield, eyes wild. So this is where everyone's been hiding, she said, her voice brittle. Planning the great family betrayal. Vanessa, our father warned, but she was already advancing into the room. You're really going through with this? Throwing away years of planning for her little boutique fantasies? She turned to Margaret. Our original plan was solid. Tested. This community marketplace nonsense is just trending right now. It'll fade. Margaret's expression remained professionally neutral. Actually, our research indicates quite the opposite. The trend toward authentic, community-focused retail has been building for years. Your sister recognized it early. That's the kind of instinct we value. Of course you'd say that. She's turned you all against me. Against everything we were building. Vanessa's voice cracked slightly. Dad, please, this isn't who we are. No, he said quietly. Maybe it's who we should have been all along. He gestured to the renderings. Look at it. Really look. This isn't just a development. It's a legacy. Something that could actually make the city better. A legacy? She laughed bitterly. Your legacy was supposed to be the biggest luxury mall in the region. Now it's going to be some hipster marketplace with food trucks and craft fairs. My legacy, he said, standing up, is having daughters smart enough to see things I missed, even if it took me too long to notice. The silence that followed was deafening. Vanessa stared at our father, then at me, then at the rendering still glowing on the screen. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Understanding, maybe, or at least the beginning of it. I need some time, she finally said, her voice smaller. It's a lot. After she left, Margaret cleared her throat. Well, that was interesting. Shall we continue with the timeline review? But my father held up a hand. Give us a minute. Once Margaret and her team had stepped out, he turned to me. Go talk to your sister. Dad, I don't think. She needs to hear it from you. Not as competition, not as the sister who proved her wrong, but as someone who might understand what she's feeling right now. I found Vanessa sitting in her car in the parking lot, staring straight ahead. When I tapped on the window, she didn't look at me, but she did unlock the doors. I slid into the passenger seat. Remember when we were kids, I said after a moment, and you used to make me play store with you. You'd be the boss, and I'd have to be the customer. She almost smiled. Almost. You were a terrible customer, always asking too many questions. I still ask too many questions. That's how I built my business, by questioning everything, including what success is supposed to look like. She finally turned to look at me. I thought I knew what it looked like. What Dad wanted. What I was supposed to want. Maybe it's time to ask your own questions, I suggested gently. Figure out what you actually want to build. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the construction site. Tomorrow would bring more meetings, more decisions, more steps toward transforming not just the development, but our family's entire approach to business. But for now, sitting in silence with my sister, I felt something shift, like the first small crack in a wall that had stood between us for far too long. 6 months later, I stood in the center of the Commons at Riverside on opening day, barely recognizing the space that had once been a contested construction site. The morning sun filtered through the glass ceiling of the central marketplace, where local vendors were setting up their stalls alongside luxury brand boutiques. My original shop remained exactly where it had always been, but now it anchored a row of carefully curated small businesses. The construction culture signs had been replaced with elegant window displays, though I kept one of the dust art photographs framed in my office as a reminder of how it all began. You really pulled it off, Vanessa said, appearing beside me. After our talk in the parking lot, she'd taken a step back from the project, spending time traveling and, surprisingly, visiting small marketplaces around the world. When she returned, she had a notebook full of ideas and a different perspective on what luxury could mean. We pulled it off, I corrected, Her experience with high-end retail had proved invaluable in bridging the gap between local artisans and luxury brands. The mentor program for new vendors was your idea. She smiled, adjusting the name badge that identified her as Director of Vendor Relations. Who knew all those years of luxury retail could help small businesses? Dad's still shocked I turned down the CEO position at his company. Speaking of Dad, I nodded toward the entrance, where our father was leading Margaret Wu and a group of investors on a tour. He looked different these days, less like a corporate titan and more like someone who'd remembered why he loved business in the first place. Over here, he called out, waving us over. Let my daughters tell you about our vendor incubator program. It's revolutionizing how we approach retail development. As Vanessa launched into her presentation about supporting local businesses, I caught my mother's eye across the marketplace. She stood by the cafe area, where she'd insisted on adding comfortable seating for people who just want to be part of the atmosphere. After years of pushing us toward her vision of success, she finally started seeing the value in our different paths. The grand opening ceremony was nothing like the original mall's groundbreaking. Instead of corporate speeches and press photos, we had local musicians, food vendors, and a ribbon cutting shared by all the business owners. My father insisted I speak first. A year ago, this space represented everything I thought I was fighting against, I told the crowd. Now it represents what we can build when we stop fighting and start listening. The Commons isn't just a marketplace, it's a community hub where luxury meets local, where small businesses can grow alongside established brands. Margaret Wu's team had already approached us about replicating the concept in other cities. But for now, I was content watching my little boutique flourish in its enhanced space, surrounded by other businesses that shared my vision of authentic retail. That evening, after the crowds had gone and the vendors were closing up, I found my father standing in front of my original shop window. You know what this display reminds me of? He asked as I joined him. That little toy store you used to run in the basement when you were 10. You'd arrange everything just so, make little price tags, even write up receipts. You said I was wasting time playing shop when I should be learning real business, I remembered. He chuckled. Turns out you were learning the most important lesson of all. How to see what people really want, not just what we think they should have. The setting sun cast warm light through the marketplace's glass ceiling, illuminating the space we created together. Not a compromise between luxury and local, but a true fusion of both worlds. I'm proud of you, he said quietly, not just for this. He gestured at the Commons, but for standing your ground when we were all telling you that you were wrong. That takes real business sense. Learn from the best, I replied, bumping his shoulder, even if I had to learn it backwards. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I walked through the quiet marketplace one last time. My phone buzzed with a message from Margaret Wu, early numbers showing record foot traffic and social media engagement. Another came from Vanessa, sharing photos of potential vendors he discovered for our next phase. But it was the last message that made me smile the most. A simple text from my father. Your mother wants to know if you're free for family dinner on Sunday. She promises no business talk. Just family. Standing there in the space that had transformed from battleground to bridge, I realized that sometimes the biggest victories aren't about proving others wrong. They're about showing them a different way to be right. I texted back a single word, yes.